Yashodanandana Prajanarandana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yashodanandana Prajanarandana Yamuna Tiravanachari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So today we'll read from Srimad Bhagavatam. Canto 3, Chapter 9, texts 2 and 3. These are really packed verses. The purports are really packed, but they all kind of work to make one point, so I just thought I would do these together. Wait, whoa. Somebody have a job interview? That's what my suit was. I bought a suit for job interviews, and I probably wore it to more funerals and weddings than I did job interviews. And the interview I wore an aloha shirt because there was an aloha.
It's just a beautiful day.
Okay, text 2. Rupam Yad Etad Avabodha Rasodayena Rupam Yad Etad Avabodha Rasodayena Amabodha Rasodayena Shashvan Nivritta Tamasa Sat Anugrahaya Shashvan Nivritta Tamasa Sat Anugrahaya Adau Rahitam Avatara Shataika Bijam Adau Rahitam Avatara Shataika Bijam Yan Napi Padma Bhavanad Aham Abhyasam
virasam.
Yannavi Padma Bhavanad Ahama Virasam.
Yannavi Padma Bhavanad virasam.
Rupam Yareta Ravabodha Rasodayena.
Rupam yadeta ravabodha sodayena.
Shashvan Nivritta Tamasa Sadanugrahaya.
Shashvam nivrittatamasa sadanugrahaya.
Adau Grahitam Avatara Shataika Bijam.
Adau grihitam avatara shataika bijam.
Yannavi Padma Bhavanarahama Virasam.
Yannavi Padma Bhavanarahama virasam.
Rupam Yareta Ravabodha Rasodayena.
Rupam yadeta ravabodha sodayena.
Shashvan Nivritta Tamasa Sadanugrahaya.
Shashvam nivrittatamasa sadanugrahaya.
Adau Grahitam Avatara Shataika Bijam.
Adau grihitam avatara shataika bijam.
Yannavi Padma Bhavanarahama Virasam.
Yannavi Padma Bhavanarahama virasam.
Others, please.
Rupam yadeta ravabodha rasodayena. Rupam yadeta ravabodha rasodayena. Shashvan nivrittatamasa sadanugrahaya. Shashvan nivrittatamasa sadanugrahaya. Adau grihitam avatara shataika bijam. Adau grihitam avatara shataika bijam. Yannavi Padma Bhavanarahama virasam. Rupam yadeta ravabodha rasodayena. Rupam yadeta ravabodha rasodayena. Shashvam nivrittatamasa sadanugrahaya. Shashvam nivrittatamasa sadanugrahaya. Adau grihitam avatara shataika bijam. Adau grihitam avatara shataika bijam. Yannavi Padma Bhavanarahama virasam. Yannavi Padma Bhavanarahama virasam.
Rupam Yareta Ravabodha Rasodayena.
Rupam yadeta ravabodha rasodayena.
Shashvan Nivrittatamasa Sadanugrahaya.
Shashvam nivrittatamasa sadanugrahaya.
Adau Grihitam Avatara Shataika Bijam.
Adau grihitam avatara shataika bijam.
Yannavi Padma Bhavanarahama virasam.
Yannavi Padma Bhavanarahama virasam.
Rupam Yadita Avabodha Rasodayena.
Rupam yadeta ravabodha rasodayena.
Shashvan Nivritta Tamasa Sadanugrahaya.
Shashvam nivrittatamasa sadanugrahaya.
Adau Giritam Avatara Shataika Bijam.
Adau grihitam avatara shataika bijam.
Yannavi Padma Bhavanarahama virasam.
Yannavi Padma Bhavanarahama virasam. Rupam yadeta ravabodha rasodayena. Rupam yadeta ravabodha rasodayena.
Rupam yadeta ravabodha rasodayena.
Shashvam nivrittatamasa sadanugrahaya.
Shashvam nivrittatamasa sadanugrahaya.
Yana Vipadma Bhavana Ahavirasam.
Rupam Yadeta Avabodha Rasodayena.
Rupam Yadeta Avabodha Rasodayena.
Saishvani Virta Tamasa Sadanugrahaya.
Saishvani Virta Tamasa Sadanugrahaya.
Ado Grihitam Avatara Shataika Bijam.
Ado Grihitam Avatara Shataika Bijam.
Yanam Vipadma Bhavanat Aham Abhilasam.
Yana Vipadma Bhavanat Aham Abhilasam.
Anyone, I mean, come on, we're missing a couple of people.
Oh,
Ali, you gonna take a
I'm
shot?
going to move closer to the screen because I have those
Yeah, it's a little pretty.
Rupam yad ita avivoda rochanena.
Rupam Yadeta Avabodha Rasodayena.
Sasvan mirta kamasha sat anigruyaya.
Saishvani Virta Tamasa Sadanugrahaya.
Adavritam abhitara sakalaka bijam.
Ado Grihitam Avatara Shataika Bijam.
Yanavi para bhaganat aman abhirasam.
Yana Vipadma Bhavanat Aham Abhilasam.
Should we make it a strike?
Middle-aged eyes.
Rupam Yadeta Avabodha Rasodayena. Saishvani Virta Tamasa Sadanugrahaya. Ado Grihitam Avatara Shataika Bijam. Yana Vipadma Bhavanat Aham Abhilasam.
Thank you. Got all the pins down? Synonyms: Rupam,
Rupam,
form,
form,
Yat,
Yat,
rich,
rich,
Eta,
Eta,
that,
that,
Avabodha Rasa,
Avabodha Rasa,
of your internal potency,
of your internal potency,
Udayena,
Udayena,
with the manifestation,
with the manifestation,
Shashvat,
Shashvat,
forever,
forever,
Nivrikta,
Nivrita,
freed from,
free from,
Tamasaha,
Tamasa,
material contamination,
material contamination,
Sat Anugrahaya,
Sat Anugrahaya,
for the sake of the devotees,
for the sake of the devotees,
Ado,
Ado,
original in the creative energy of matter,
original in the creative energy of matter,
Grihitam,
Grihitam,
accepted,
accepted,
Avatara,
Avatara,
of incarnations,
of incarnations,
Shata Eka Bijam,
Sataeka Bijam,
the root cause of hundreds,
the root cause of hundreds,
yet that which,
that which,
Navipadma,
Navadwip,
the navel,
The navel.
I'm sorry, it's the navel lotus flower,
the navel lotus flower,
Bhavanat,
Bhavanat,
from the home,
from the home,
Aham,
Aham,
myself,
myself,
Avirasam,
Abhyasam,
generated.
generated.
Translation. The form which I see is eternally freed from material contamination and has advented to show mercy to the devotees as a manifestation of internal potency. This incarnation is the origin of many other incarnations, and I am born from the lotus flower grown from your navel home. Responsibly, please. The form which I see
The form which I see
is eternally freed
is eternally free
from material contamination
from material contamination,
and has advented to show mercy
and has invented to show mercy
to the devotees
to the devotees
as a manifestation of internal potency.
as a manifestation of internal potency.
This incarnation is the origin
This incarnation is the origin
of many other incarnations.
of many other incarnations.
And I am born from the lotus flower,
And I am born from the lotus flower,
grown from your navel home.
grown from your navel home.
Srila Prabhupada's purport. The three deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, Shiva, the executive heads of the three modes of material nature, passion, goodness, and ignorance, are all generated from Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, who is described herein by Brahma. From the Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, the Vishnu incarnations expand at different ages in the duration of the cosmic manifestation. They are expanded only for the transcendental happiness of the pure devotees. The incarnations of Vishnu who appear at different ages and times are never to be compared to the conditioned souls. The Vishnu Tattvas are not to be compared to deities like Brahma and Shiva, nor are they on the same level. Anyone who compares them is called a pashandi or infidel. Tamasa, mentioned herein, is the material nature, and the spiritual nature has a completely separate existence from tama. Therefore, the spiritual nature is called abharodha rasa or avarodha rasa. Avarodha means that which completely nullifies. In transcendence, there's no chance of material contact by any means. Brahma is the first living being, and therefore he mentions his birth from the lotus flower, generated from the abdomen of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Text 3. Nata param paramayat bhavatasvarupam anandamatram avikalpa avidhivarjaha pashyami vishvasrajam ekam avishvam pashyami vishvasrajamekam avishvamatman bhutendriyatma marastha upashritos. O my Lord, I do not see a form superior to your present form of eternal bliss and knowledge. In your impersonal Brahman effulgence in the spiritual sky, there is no occasional change and no deterioration of internal potency. I surrender unto you because whereas I am proud of my material body and senses, your Lordship is the cause of the cosmic manifestation, and yet you are untouched by matter. Srila Prabhupada's purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktyamam Abhijanati Avanyaschasmi Tattvataha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can only be partially known, and only by the process of devotional service to the Lord. Lord Brahma became aware that the Supreme Lord Krishna has many, many eternal blissful forms of knowledge. He has described such expansions of the Supreme Lord Govinda in his Brahma Samhita as follows. Advaita Machyuta Manadi Mananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakta Govindam Adi Purusham Tamam Vajana. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is non-dual and infallible. He is the original cause of all causes, even though he expands in many forms. Although he is the oldest personality, he is ever youthful, unaffected by old age. The Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be known by the academic wisdom of the Vedas. One has to approach the devotee of the Lord to understand him. The only way to understand the Lord as he is by devotional service to the Lord, or by approaching the devotee of the Lord, who always has the Lord in his heart. By devotional perfection, By devotional perfection, one can understand that the impersonal Brahma Jyoti is only a partial representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, and that the three Purusha expansions in the material creation are his plenary portions. In the spiritual sky of the Brahma Jyoti, there is no change of various kalpas or millenniums. There are no creative activities in the Vaikuntha worlds. The influence of time is conspicuous by its absence. The rays of the transcendental body of the Lord, the unlimited Brahma Jyoti, are undeterred by the influence of the material energy. In the material world also, the initial creator is the Lord himself. He brings about the creation of Brahma, who becomes a subsequent creator, empowered by the Lord. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjalam Shalakaya Chakshura Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pandrum Vanghayate Yakrapatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataram Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadaman Vedati Swapadantikam Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhu Yadevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavesham Rupam Yadeta Rabodha Rasura Yena Shashvan Nivritta Tamasasara Nugrahaya Adau Vihitam Avatara Shataika Bijam Yannavi Padma Bhavanara Hamavirasam. The form which I see is eternally freed from material contamination and has advented to show mercy to the devotees as a manifestation of internal potency. In this incarnation is the origin of many other incarnations, and I am born from the lotus flower grown from your navel home. Nata param paramayat bhavata svarupam anandamatram avikalpam avidhavarcha pashyami vishvasujam ekam avishyamatman utindriyatmaka madas tadupashritosmi. O my Lord, I do not see a form superior to your present form of eternal bliss and knowledge. In your impersonal Brahman effulgence in the spiritual sky, there is no occasional change and no deterioration of internal potency. I surrender to you because whereas I am proud of my material body and senses, your lordship is the cause of the cosmic manifestation, and yet you are untouched by matter. So in text 3, Brahma draws a pretty stark contrast between the material world and the spiritual world. In your impersonal Brahman effulgence in the spiritual sky, there's no occasional change and no deterioration of internal potency. So the spiritual world is manifested by Krishna's internal potency. And the external potency, Maya, illusion, is, I was going to say prominent by its absence, but it's not prominent. It's just absent. It's not there. There's no Maya. There's no illusion. And there's no change of seasons, there's no change of kalpas. There's no change. Everything is always going on, all the time. A little hard for us to conceive, therefore it's called inconceivable. Because this is something that's beyond the grasp of our intelligence. We're very proud of our intelligence. Just as we see Brahma here saying, well, I'm very proud of my material body and senses. After all, I'm a pretty cool dude. I created the whole universe. But I also acknowledge that the only way I was able to do that is because you made it possible. You gave me the power. You gave me the knowledge. You provided the energy. You provided the materials. None of this is mine. So belongs to my employer, right? Just like if you invent something at work, you invent something in the lab that's owned and run and funded by your employer. Guess who gets the copyright or the patent for that particular thing? The company, yeah, not you. Just like the guy who invented Post-its, one of the most prolific things in the world probably these days. Post-its and all their knockoffs. The guy did it at work. Didn't make a penny off of it. I remember driving around on Maui a long time ago, and there were those little dots in the middle of the road, where they used to have the dotted lines or the solid lines painted or something like that. And then they would add these dots that were more reflective than even the reflective paint. And they were raised so that if you crossed them, you'd know, generally, unless you were really out. Of course, then if you drift the other way, nowadays they have those rumble strips. I don't know if I haven't been out in the country much here since I've been back, but on the Big Island, got those rumble strips on the side of the road, where they have this deep grooves. So if you drift off to the side of the road, you know it. Or sometimes, I remember noticing in Florida, they have them approaching a stop sign out in the country. Because you're used to ripping along at 70, 80 miles an hour on a back country road. You got to know it's time to stop. So anyway, when I saw these dots, and I remembered the Post-its guy, and I thought, man, I hope this dude did it in his basement. So he's at least living comfortably, because these things are really smart. So Brahma is acknowledging his subordination here. And he says, I surrender to you because I'm proud of my material body, because whereas I'm proud of my material body in the senses, your lordship is the cause of the whole cosmic manifestation. So he says something similar in the 10th canto, 14th chapter of the 10th canto. I'll share a couple of those verses. So I'm starting with text 9. My Lord, just see my uncivilized impudence. To test your power, I tried to extend my illusory potency to cover you, the unlimited and primeval supersoul, who bewilder even the masters of illusion. Who am I compared to you? I'm just like a small spark in the presence of a great fire. He's admitting the absurdity of this, having tried to play this trick. 14th chapter, for those who aren't familiar or may have forgotten. 14th chapter follows the 13th chapter, which is the last chapter Srila Prabhupada translated. 13th chapter is the Brahma Vimohana Lila, where Krishna Brahma tries to play a trick on Brahma tries to play a trick on Krishna, and Krishna turns it around, and the thing kind of blows up in Brahma's face. Brahma comes back after a moment to see the fun that he's created, see what kind of chaos he's created by stealing Krishna's friends and calves. And he sees the friends and the calves all playing with Krishna. The boys are dancing, the calves are doing their Kathy thing. And he's just like, what? Wait. And he goes back and checks where he's stashed the boys and the calves. He comes back again, and then they turn into Vishnu forms. And he's like, anyway, this whole thing, Brahma finally has to admit, I don't have a clue what's going on here, but all I know is, I'm not all that. And then he continues, therefore, O infallible Lord, we're getting back to the lotus flower again. Kindly excuse my offenses. I've taken birth in the mode of passion, and I'm therefore simply foolish, presuming myself to be a controller independent of your lordship. My eyes are blinded by the darkness of ignorance, which causes me to think of myself as the unborn creator of the universe. But please, consider that I am your servant and therefore worthy of your compassion. What am I? A small creature measuring 7 spans of my own hand. I'm enclosed in a pot-like universe composed of material nature. The total material energy, false ego, ether, air, water, and earth. And what is your glory? Unlimited universes pass through the pores of your body like particles of dust pass through the openings of a screened window. I'm thinking I'm big. I'm thinking I'm some kind of big dude because I've created this little universe, but it's like I'm trapped in a pot. I think about it, honestly about it. And you, all the universes are coming out of and going back into the pores of your body, just like motes of dust through the screen in our window. Oh, and then back again to his situation with the lotus flower and his actual relationship with the Lord. Oh Lord, I hope so does the mother take offense when the child within her womb kicks with his legs? The moms here know. Baby kicks, it's not like, who are you kicking me? It's like, oh, cool, you want to come feel? Right? So it's, it's something cute. And is there anything in existence, whether designated by various philosophers of the world as real or unreal, that is actually outside your abdomen? My dear Lord, it is said that when the 3 planetary systems are merged into the water at the time of dissolution, your plenary portion, Narayana, lies down on the water. Gradually, a lotus flower grows from his navel, and Brahma takes birth from that lotus flower. Certainly, these words are not false. Thus, am I not born from you? Am I not your baby? Does mom get upset? Does mom get upset if the baby drools on her? And she wipes it off. Sometimes she'll wear a smock, or when they're burping, nursing the baby or burping the baby, they'll have a towel or something. It's not a big deal. Or when they mess up their diaper or something like that, not a big deal. You just clean the baby, put on a fresh diaper. That big thing. So Brahma is invoking that kind of compassion in the Lord, because he's recognizing he's found himself in a rather kind of strange situation. And he's acknowledging the absolute superiority of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the source of everything, including the impersonal Brahman and the all-pervasive Paramatma. And we see the same thing in the 2nd chapter. We see this point being made in the second very important verse in the Bhagavatam, in the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter of the 1st canto. Vadanti tattvam vidas tattvam yad jnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdite. Learned transcendentalists know the absolute truth. Who know the absolute truth? Call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. So here again, what's being invoked is this perspective that we got very strongly in the 2nd chapter, and which persists and builds strength through the 3rd chapter here, at least so far through the 3rd chapter. Through the 3rd canto, I'm sorry, the 2nd canto and 3rd canto, not chapters. And that is Achintya Veda Veda Tattva, or Achintya Veda Veda Prakash. This perspective that everything is at once one with, identical with, and different from the Supreme Lord. And it's one with him because these are his energies, and his energies are all not different from him. So we saw in the 2nd canto that we saw a couple of different ways to see the material world as Krishna, to see Krishna in the material world. And one of the things it taught us is, this is also Krishna, because it's one of his energies. And if we have the right perspective, then we don't become separated from Krishna. So, and where is this, And where does this idea come from? We tend to attribute this to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But we actually find it as the basic teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the essence of the second canto, and we see it still very strongly in these first chapters of the third canto. Everything is about Krishna. Everything is Krishna's. So that comes from the Rig Veda Samhita. The Rig Veda is the oldest of the Vedas. It comes from the Purusha Sukta prayers in the Rig Veda. So this is the oldest idea in existence. This understanding that everything is one with God at the same time that it's different. So this is not a pantheism where God kind of spreads himself out throughout the material world. I remember, I think, it might have been my first temple president, Gorsundar, compared it to taking a jar of peanut butter and spreading it on the different slices of a loaf of bread. The jar will become exhausted by the time you get to the end of the loaf. But Krishna is not like that, because this is internal potency. There's no diminution of his internal potency, as we saw in the second of today's verses. And then there's another verse in the first canto that also addresses some of these points that Ramad is making. And that's in the third chapter. This was in the second chapter, and then in the third chapter. He says, he's talking about the different incarnations, the different kinds of avatars. Goswami, I think, I can't remember the layers right now. Ete cham sukalapum sakrishnastu bhagavan svayam indradi vyakalam lokam mridanti yugeke. All the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists. So we saw that as well in today's purports, that Krishna appears. He manifests himself, what's the word Prabhupada used? Advented. He advents himself simply for the pleasure of the devotees. Now, along the way, he takes care of those who might be causing disturbance to the devotees. But his real reason for appearing is to give delight to the devotees. And in this verse, this one pada, Krishna's to Bhagavan Svayam, has been designated, I think, by Jiva Goswami as the Paribhasa Sutra of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This pada, this half a line, is actually the key to the entire Bhagavatam. The whole Bhagavatam is right there in those words. Krishna's to Bhagavan Svayam. But Krishna is himself the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. If you want to understand the Bhagavatam, you have to keep that in mind. It's like the key that unlocks the secrets of the Bhagavatam. And once you've actually heard that, begun to assimilate it, it's difficult to see the Bhagavatam through any other perspective, to see how the Srimad Bhagavatam could be understood by anyone as having any other purpose, any other meaning than to glorify.
Jai Shri Panchakanta Ki.
And we see that in the very first verse of the Bhagavatam, as well as the last verse of the Bhagavatam. The last verse of the Bhagavatam, the speaker offers his obeisances to Krishna, Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the chanting of whose holy names purifies us of everything and gives us transcendental bliss. So it's there from Atiksha, as Srila Prabhupada might say, from A to Z, in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And how do we understand this? Srila Prabhupada points that out in the purports as well. He begins the purport to verse 3 by citing text 55 from the 18th chapter. Bhakti mama vijanati yadanas chaspatapa. Tato mam tatpato gyatva vishate tadananta. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord, by such devotion he can enter into the kingdom of God. And Srila Prabhupada begins that report by saying, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and his plenary portions cannot be understood by mental speculation, nor by the non-devotees. If anyone wants to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has to take to pure devotional service under the guidance of the pure devotee. Otherwise, the truth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead will always be hidden. It's already stated, Naham Prakasha, that he is not revealed to anyone. So that's a reference to chapter 7, I think the 25th verse of chapter 7, Naham Prakasha Sarvasa Yogamaya Samadhita. He says, I don't reveal myself to just any dope, just any nonsense who comes along. For them, I'm completely covered by my Maya. He refers to it as Yoga Maya there, because it's his divine energy. He's talking about Mahamaya as well. Just as he talks about Mahamaya as Daivi Prakriti, right? This is my divine energy. So this is the whole key. Understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Svayam Bhagavan Krishna Ekala Ishvara. Advitiya Nandatma Rasika Shiva. That Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one without a second. He has no rivals. Actually, he has no rivals. I think probably one chapter in the Bhagavatam, later in the Bhagavatam, that just cracked devotees up is his encounter with this dude who thought he was Krishna, and he dressed himself up like Krishna, like even tacking on extra arms so that he would look really cool and Krishna, real Vasudeva. And Krishna just, didn't pay much attention. And when he was finally confronted face to face with him, he was whacking. It's not a big thing. And I remember the brahmacharis thinking, what is this guy? He's putting on like Krishna makeup and strapping on extra arms and everything to try to wow everybody. How's he kidding himself? He's going through all that stuff. It's crazy. It's like one of these superhero guys in the movies who puts on one of these suits that makes them look like some bodybuilder or something like that. When really underneath the suit they look, well, maybe not quite like me, but a little more like me than they do that the suit's supposed to convey. So Pandrika is, he's all impressed, he's challenging Krishna very seriously. I mean, he's seriously challenging Krishna. This is a dude who's seriously deluded. And Krishna just dispatches him with his chunk. So what is sitting here in the temple room for 45 minutes have to do with, we can know him only by devotional service. Why do we have to do this? And why do we have to go to another class? And why do we have to go to yet another class? Why do we have to spend time reading Bhagavad Gita? Why do devotees sit down and memorize verse? Because that is also bhakti, right? Hearing Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, right? So hearing, chanting, remembering about Krishna, so many things. We have 9 processes that are listed by Prahlad Maharaj. We have 64 main angas of sadhana bhakti that we find in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Everything we do. Srila Prabhupada created the International Society for Krishna Consciousness for one purpose only, and that's to facilitate our coming together to give pleasure to Krishna. When he incorporated Iskcon, he said if it doesn't work, then we'll dissolve it and start over again. So we still, it's 55 years later, we're still trying to make it work. That's our business as disciples. Oh, I'm in trouble. So I'll stop here. Are there any quick questions or comments?
At this point, did Brahma know that he was a creator? He was supposed to be a creator? Did he know what his service was?
Yeah. he did the tapasya, that's his service, that's the service that's given to him by Krishna. So he's aware, he's aware what he's about. I mean, we keep seeing Brahma kind of from different, it's like looking at different facets of his encounter with the Lord after having been born. But he's been there, he's been sitting there in meditation, following the instruction of the Lord, and he understands that. And so, we see in one of today's verses, where he says, I'm all proud. Oops. I'm all proud of my cool, that was wrong, of my cool, powerful body. I surrender to you because whereas I'm proud of my material body and senses, and he has plenty to be proud of. I mean, we're proud of our bodies and our senses, right? We think, we can figure something out. Or maybe you can read the road sign when grandma can't, or something like that, And you were feeling a little proud. We can do something that somebody else can't. But there are people who can do things that we can't even imagine. Think of those kids who sit, those kids who are composing amazing pieces of music on a piano at the age of 5 or 6, like Mozart. Mozart was composing stuff that was already pretty cool when he was a little kid. And Beethoven as well. You know what Mozart said about this is an aside. You know what Mozart said about Beethoven? He met Beethoven when Beethoven was 16. He says, the world's got to watch out for this boy. He's going to leave him alone. So, we're proud. I can play a couple of tunes on the harmonium. But, I can't do what some Sufi kawal can do. I'm all over the keyboard, much less compose something like Mozart or Beethoven or Rachmaninoff or somebody like that. But I'm proud. I can play a couple of tunes. So Brahma's admitting his inadequacy here, his complete dependence on the Lord. So he's aware. That help?
Yeah.
Anything else?
There's a line in the purport of this third verse. It says the influence of time is conspicuous by its absence.
Yes.
So what does that mean?
Doesn't exist. There's no past, present, and future in the spiritual sky.
And when you say conspicuous,
It's always now.
conspicuous.
Well, Prabhupada says conspicuous. The influence of time is conspicuous by its absence, but I don't think it's I'm not sure it's conspicuous. It's just